And we're going live. Although I just need a few things before I start paying attention to anything. Like linking this chat, there's gotta be like a better way to do this. Let's copy this and let us link this. Okay, cool. And cool. No one's in here yet to see this. Just on the repeats. Away we go. Get my go juice first. We are live. Hello and welcome back. I have been kind of MIA for the last month and a half, and I am apologizing for that. I honestly keep making this mistake, but I was in a very hectic situation with me moving and kind of going into new locations, and had wrongly thought that I could continue the live stream and the same level of just me cranking out videos while in a one bedroom apartment, sleeping in a different spot, not having a desk or really any type of infrastructure for me to make videos or film any things other than just like quick, just phone videos, which I could have done, but I also didn't read a lot the last month and a half up until I've gotten back into this kind of intermediary position. As you can tell, there is not a bookshelf or any of my normal stuff that I would have. Still moving. It's in storage. I'll eventually get settled, but that's probably going to be another couple weeks, and I didn't want to hold this up anymore. And I had some like plans for some of the live stream stuff, including like getting guests involved and this and that. So I didn't want to hold anything up and kind of get some momentum back again with posting that Dungeon Crawler Carl video that I did a few days ago. I figured this was a good time as any to get in there, even if it's not perfect. So until it is, you'll notice that I finally named this thing Birdtalk because the original intention of this was supposed to be like almost like a podcast format where I talk to other booktubers, authors, people in the community, but hasn't happened yet, though they are scheduled and I have that rolling out. But I did want to just kind of briefly use this because this also was supposed to be what I was going to replace my like monthly like TBR and wrap up videos as, and hopefully a source of content that I can mine by clipping it. Haven't done because this has always devolved into me just reading chat and also just trying to answer questions and not really have a real plan other than anything there. But I finally sat down and started to figure things out. So I think that we're finally going to make some positive change on this and with my YouTube channel in general. So, like I said, what I would have been up to, I was moving between states, which is always hectic. But I was in Colorado for a little over a year. I had planned on kind of coming back immediately, but went on some side quests, was just kind of hanging out in Colorado, enjoying myself, seeing concerts, getting all the nature, doing like snowboarding things, and that quickly just evolved into me losing a lot of discipline, but I did have a lot of fun in that stead. So right now I am back in Texas from an undisclosed location, and I will be moving into another different city from here, which will be another adventure. But hey, I'm finally happy I have a single room that I can actually work out of and like do this stuff with. I'm also kind of concerned about like just the general internet quality of this. Okay, that's going. So if it's choppy and anyone shows up, sorry. I'll be curious to watch this back just to see how much of this actually gets choppy or if it just becomes a smooth experience. Like I said, newish to streaming. But now that I am back, I have been remaking up some of my TBR stuff with a vengeance. So to go over some of the books that I have read, I'll briefly talk about like what I thought about them and some other things. But I did finish The Wandering in Volume 2. I'll be releasing a video on that sometime in the next week. I really enjoyed it. I like how more expansive it got. And one thing that I always kind of dislike about lit RPGs, if it's not done well, is that when you build really interesting characters that you focus on, generally later on they will try to expand it out, introduce more and more characters to really build out the world. And sometimes there's this like thing that happens where you make such interesting main characters that whenever you go away from the main plot and stuff, you just wind up like, I don't want to say get bored, but you have such cool things happening here and you're over here, and it's just kind of like not the best thing to like get back and forth with. But with the Wandering In 2, I can say like completely that just having the side quests that we're doing and some of the interesting things that they were getting into, I just thought was really interesting and really fun. So this is one of the few lit series that kind of fall within that lit RPG genre that I think really handle multiple plots, multiple characters, and continuously introducing new side characters that have been just a joy to read about. So huge fan. I'm currently working on The Wandering In book 3. Let me double check that. I read book 3, and that was the one I was talking about. Book 2 still was really good, and I had more of a focus on the main characters. Book 3 was everything that I was just talking about. But now I'm on book 4. So you can expect a review for books 2 and 3 sometime in the near future, because I have a massive backlog I need to get through. The other thing that I did that I briefly talked on some of my other sketches was that I got completely obsessed with Dungeon Crawler Carl. I released a video, and I try to interject some parts just to show how much I thought the series grew, but I didn't really go into like too much detail about it specifically. But by God, that became quickly a obsession that I could not put down. This is going to be something I talk about later in my video, but I am planning on rolling out a completely new editing style. Still humorous, still memey, but I'm going to be utilizing the green screen more, different angles, making it more dynamic, actually scripting portions of it, and hopefully I've been picking up some After Effects tutorials lately, so I want to introduce more effects driven content in the future. That's something I feel like booktube always has been like a bit lacking on, if we're being completely honest. And it's kind of talking at personalities, but there are so many booktubers out there that have massive audiences for booktube or just in general, and trying to compete with that is difficult and not generally the type of videos I like to watch anyway. I'm really drawn to the videography side of this, so there are a few things that I wanted to go and actually like expand out. So the first one I'm going to actually do that with is going to be Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I just want to kind of focus in on that and then just release like a big series video for that. The way I've been making videos before was just kind of me reading the book, making a review, saying when I get to the end of the book series, I'll do a big video on it, but then the time that goes into reading each and reviewing each just turns into just this giant slog, so I'm going to be much more selective with that type of stuff that I'm doing. Hey, Demetric, welcome. Let me pull up the chat so I can also see. I'm just talking about like where I've been and kind of some of the stuff I've been up to. I'm not like super sure how the internet quality is here, so if it gets choppy, I apologize in advance. But just been kind of like going over some of the books I've been reading. I'm up to book 4 on The Wandering In. I'm going to have The Wandering In 2 come out sometime in the next couple weeks. 3 sometime after that. And then I don't know when I'll get to 4 just because I'm reading that now. I also binged Dungeon Crawler Carl. I released a video on it that I think you commented on, but got completely obsessed with it, and I don't think I really conveyed just how much the series grows in that first video, but I'm going to like make a big sort of video about the whole thing and then just not do individual reviews for it, which I'm pretty excited about. No, not yet. I'm like in a in-between spot right now just because I went back to my family's place, and then I'm trying to move into my new place in a different city in a couple weeks. So right now, just kind of in between. I don't want to be like rushed for that, so I'm in a green screen new spot to hide the fact that it's all like pastel walls and nothing actually interesting to look at. But we're getting close to it. I'm super excited about the location too. I forgot. Were you the one who recommended to me "Beware of Chicken"? I remember that was like one from one of my live stream recs, but I also became obsessed with that series, and I wound up binging books one, two, and three pretty short order. And so, with that new editing style that I'm going to try to do, that's a bit more dynamic and actually more produced, I want to go and make a big video or series video about that rather than doing like what I had been doing, which was, read the book, review the book, read the book, review the book, and then promise sometime in the future I'd make a big series why you should read it video. It was pretty good based on some of the other things that I know that you've like said you liked. I think you'd enjoy it a lot. Just it's like one of those Zhao Zhao like things or progression fantasy with like cultivation kind of as like the forefront. Except the main character just decided he wanted no part of that. He kind of got isekai'd into a new world and it was just me like, I'm not dealing with any of this. I'm gonna go run a farm, and then the farm animals become aware, and then they start learning martial arts and doing the whole thing. So really fresh take on it, and probably some of my favorite characters I've read in a while. Lately this year has just been like the year of just more like indie lit RPGs, progression fantasy stuff, and it's like really good. Okay, nice, nice. Yeah, I get that. That's been me the last couple weeks. I kind of like got behind on a bunch of things for my like actual job, just from the moving and everything. So I've been kind of focused on that, and finally got into a spot where I felt like I could like comfortably edit and do stuff again. But that's one of the worst things about adulting. It's just you stop having to do like homework and things, and then it's just like, oh no, you have to work to survive. Like, good luck, buddy. Yeah, I don't think I ever read Sun Eater one, but I think that's one of the ones that you recommended that I like wrote down as things to check out. I made a detour back into the Wandering Inlands just to rejog my series because that's the next video I'm gonna make. So that's I'm pretty excited about, but maybe I'll check out one out next. But yeah, Beware of Chicken. It was really surprising, and some of like the moral lessons and that they had invested into it wasn't like over the head. And then like I actually had an emotional reaction to like a awoken chicken that knows martial arts showing up to save the day. So the guy who wrote it, I forget his name, unfortunately. I think it was one of those pseudonyms that started out as like a web serial, but I was just like completely excited and like ready to go and like having a full triumphant moment like a Sanderlanche just from like a chicken showing up to fight bad guys. So really well done. I'm really excited to make that video, and I have a bunch of like really crazy ideas for that, just for like some act outs and trying to like utilize the green screen a bit more. Yeah, that's it depends a lot on your career field. I work in software and I'm completely remote, so my solution to doing that was just like having a hotspot and like traveling around with it, and that's opened up a lot of free time for me to go and do that. But depending on like your job field, for that you could do like contract work, or when I was like still in the medical field, you could like do travel assignments. So you'd like get paid a lot more, work for 3 6 months, take 3 6 months off, and you can kind of just like repeat that, which is pretty nice. But not all the job fields like let you do that. But okay, yeah, that's actually a good idea. I was talking about this earlier, but I feel like booktube I think is kind of like newer to YouTube, because when you look at like some of like the original like booktubers, it was just like still image someone like blankly talking about it, or looking at like early Daniel Green stuff. It was him just kind of like talking at it, but it was just not a lot of people in there too, so he was able to kind of explode. But I feel like a lot of people just kind of took that model and run with it. So just like normal YouTube edits or doing something like vlogging books, I think that would be like a really cool angle. It's something I've considered, but just I think I went more for like the main format than like that. But I think that'd be super cool. That's fair enough. I think like industry too. I have a pretty laid back job right now, but I work in like DevOps. So for me, it's more just I automate things, and if they break, I fix them, and then I just look for new things to automate. So there's never like major production things for me that I have to deal with. So depending on like where in software you are, it's like more time consuming or everything. I started out in like IT, and I was like on call every month, and I absolutely would not be able to do what I was doing now when I had that job, unfortunately. But now backpacking in the mountains while reading too, with some of the shots you could get with that would be like super cool. And it's like kind of more of an adventure because you can like film your stuff that you're doing, and you don't even have to be that necessarily relevant to booktube. You just have cool footage of like you going on adventures. I think whatever happens with that, that would just be like kind of cool to like archive and just have for yourself. Let's see, Reaper's Gale. I'm almost done with the last one. That has been probably the biggest like Malazan struggle I can remember getting through. I think a lot of it had to do with the circumstance of moving around, but also that this may be my least favorite. It's like either my most favorite or least favorite, and I haven't decided which yet, like Malazan book yet. But I've decided it's made me decide that for future Malazan videos, I'm just gonna read the book and not tell anybody I read the book. Film everything except for maybe the final video, and then I'll just quietly like schedule all the releases so that way there's no more like it's coming out this one just to have like live in circumstance just like completely derail it. Oh, for sure, man. I got lucky with this because I joined the military like right out of high school, so I got really good duty stations. So I managed to get a lot of that, like in early, like travel wise. But like, especially if you're working in software too, and like you're young, just getting just enough saving to go on like some like grand adventure would be like really cool. Hold on, cat's meowing at me. Yeah, dude. Life's short. Go on adventures, have fun. It's like work is always going to be there for you because bills were omnipotent and ever present. That's actually like a big motivator too for like, it's always like nice for your hobbies to become like your main source of income. I feel that. I'm 31, so I feel it's slowing down as you get like more established and stuff, but also it's like I think you can plan things as you get like a bit older. So it's like yeah, I mean you're still like young, depending on like how you like take care of yourself and stuff, but you're not like locked into anything yet. So it's still like a pretty good time to just like go up and like adventure and do stuff. I move around a lot because of that, so it's because I'm remote. It's just like Colorado seems cool. There's a bunch of adventure there. Let's just pick up, go settle in there, explore all I want to do there. Do I like it? Do I not? Okay, let's go move to somewhere else where there's like new adventure. I mean, it's not great for like establishing roots, but it still like achieves that the whole traveling and like seeing as much as possible. Yeah, that's the one thing about Malazan too. I'm really excited about is the reread of it, which is I've never had that before, so I'm still going to try to like power through that. I don't know if I'm going to immediately pick up the next book, but I'm really excited to actually go back and reread everything just now that you have the context of what's like happening. I think that'd be like pretty epic. Let's see. The other stuff I've been reading, which has not been literature, but I've been on kind of a manhwa kick lately just because I've been traveling and, you get tired of like audiobooks or books after a certain point. But I wound up like binge reading Ember Knight, which was really good. One of those, the protagonist has like, is pretty weak overall, but has extreme social empathy type of deal. So he's just like a really good actor and really good at reading people, which has been super interesting. I like binged it in I think like 2 days. So there's like quite a bit of content out for that, but I always have to be careful with manuals, especially when like they're really good and interesting, because that's one of the formats that I can just like sit there and just like stay awake. And it's like another chapter, and then you finally feel like that dread when you start seeing like, oh, this was released like in March of last year. It's like, how many more am I going to be able to read? But that one was like really good. I highly recommend it. I might dip into manuals eventually, like on reviewing stuff, but I don't want to like diversify too much with what I'm doing already because it's kind of like all over the place. I also this one's more cheesy, but it like pressed my like dopamine buttons and it was pretty fun. But veteran soldier gets reincarnated and it's like a Korean special forces guy that gets like sent New World to be like the great hero, but then he's really actually the devil, and it was just a lot of fourth wall breaking and just kind of like weird and a lot of cheesy. One of the main guys loves beer and chicken, and he looks like Colonel Sanders, but really fun. So that was pretty good. Oh hell yeah, man! I'd be excited to see that. That's cool. You're getting to the part too with where you're like playing live. When I was doing that, I noticed I got a lot better, a lot faster just from like doing stuff like that. So if you're looking to get good faster too, that's probably like a great way to do it. That too with like traveling and everything. I mean, you're talking about like backpacking through like nature and stuff, but if you wind up like backpacking through Europe or anything, like I think it'd be cool to like busk a bit. It's one of those things that I always wished I had done. Like took a year off just with a guitar and like played on the streets. I mean, I've probably super sketchy, but you know, I don't know how many people have done that. And the people I've met that have done that then got into like software, like adult careers, always had like really awesome stories about it. But it's awesome you're playing, man. That's cool. Let's see. The a desk is set up weird. Normally I had everything like in front of me, so I'm having to like turn and like look at like notes and stuff. Uh, I got into Pal World 2. That actually has been a lot of fun. I don't know if you've played it or not, Demetric, but it's like Breath of the Wild meets Pokemon with like all of the filters turned off. It's pretty fun. I like the survival base building and just kind of the open world freedom of it. But I was like completely lost and confused when I started playing with it. But that's been kind of like my main when I'm not doing anything, especially because I'm not in the final place I'm gonna wind up in just yet. It's one of those like I could go out, or I could become a power old master instead, and it's been like kind of a fun way to spend the evenings. But super fun. I'm excited to see like where it's going to like actually turn into. It's pretty cool. It's like it's an interesting take. I kind of feel bad sometimes, but like you start out with like no like Pokemon or no pals, and you can like craft a club, and then you just go around and start like beating them just so they can get like low enough to like attack or like to capture. The it has a lot of like survival elements too. Like if you go out at night and you don't have clothes, like you'll die of that. You have to manage hunger for yourself, the Pokemon, and then like the main bad guys or like the Team Rocket are like basically I don't know like their motives and stuff yet, but they have like guard towers with like AK-47s and they shoot at you, and it's kind of an interesting take. But the base building and everything is something I've always enjoyed in video games, and it's been like pretty fun to like get through. I've seen a few people play with it, but it's like super addicting, especially if you like Breath of the Wild. It's like Breath of the Wild with like that Pokemon aspect. Okay, I think that's like everything that I have been reading. So I guess some like news and updates. This is something I've probably mentioned in like my one-off TBR wrap-ups, which I'm probably not going to do anymore now that I'm like live streaming. I feel like it's easier just to like this is what I'm doing than making like videos solely focused on that. And to be completely honest, unless it's like a creator I specifically follow, that's not stuff I really look for. So One of the things that I do want to do is once I hit 100 videos, which I think I'm like 1 or 2 videos away from, is I'm gonna do like a rebrand. It's still all gonna be like Swan and everything. I'm just gonna do like a big facelift on some of like my banner and like profile picture stuff I'm doing now that I've been doing this for like a year and a half. I feel like I can Photoshop a lot better. So I want to like go and like redo a couple of things, especially because I have a new video style that I want to start doing. Yeah, that's fair enough. For me, I play story-based video games just because I enjoy like still seeing the storytelling aspect from other angles. So I kind of justify it because I like to write as like this is me getting ideas for like stories. But I don't play like the competitive games or anything. It's always like RPGs or I guess even Power World. It's like survival but with a story that you're trying to get through or like an end goal. But the kind of games that you can just continuously play like League or like those type of things I try to stay away from just because those become like super time consuming and after a certain time, especially with work, you only have so many hours in the day. So I'd rather play something like with a story that I can know there's a finish that will be probably satisfying in sight. But most other video games is just I generally try to stay away from, which I have a lot of friends into like Call of Duty and stuff, and it's like, oh no, I'm glad I'm bad at this because I will get sucked in. No Apex for me. But if you're already happy with your hobbies, it's like you don't need to add more of them. I do climbing and jujitsu as like my main like physical hobbies. So it's like for me, trying to read, write, make books, function at work. Which if I was remote, I would absolutely not be able to do all of this. I definitely work the exact 40 hours and never multitask on other personal projects while I'm at work. Absolutely not. But that doesn't leave like a lot of new time for me to like pick up like new hobbies anymore like I used to be able to. Oh, dude, that I will take time off work for that game. I normally don't like to like spend vacation time like that, but I've been so waiting for that, and especially I haven't played the new Bethesda game, Starfield, and I've heard like a lot of mixed things for it. So I've heard though because it's like so mixed, I'm probably just gonna leave it alone until like they do some like major updates or like the mod community really does some stuff with it. But Elder Scrolls 6 I will be diving into because Skyrim made up so much of my life and I've replayed that game more than probably any other game I can remember. I think Fable 4, when Fable 4 comes out too, I'll play that. I really those were like some of my favorite games like growing up, so that's one of those I'll make an exception for. Yeah, I'm a front loader, so it's like I'll write a program or an automation or something and then make it seem like I'm working really hard on it for like a couple weeks, even though I just do everything in like bursts. So for me, I just like burst and can get things done really quickly. And sometimes that's like at the end of like a sprint, sometimes that's at the beginning, but it's never like the full work of time. But I've also been doing, well, I guess you're 34, so you've probably been at it for a while too. But I feel like after a certain point in software, you get like wizard brain, where it's like you're more just getting paid for like the random like knowledge in your head than like what you actually produce. So it's like I just like answer questions and it's like I have an idea and then it's like I'm working on this idea and then I would just implement it in like a single work day. But like I said, my work's pretty laid back, so a lot of it's like self-directed. So that's not probably everyone's situation either. But you could always like slack at work and just do these other things and then like get caught up and just have like it be a constant cycle of just like fun makeup, fun makeup, fun makeup. But yeah, with the rebrand too, I think I like briefly touched on it with the very beginning, which was not when you joined, but I want to switch my video style to something more dynamic, like actually like use the green screen in like regular videos, not just sketches. Script certain parts of it. Have like what's his name? Like Neil Brennan had a stand-up special called Three Mics, where that was pretty cool. Where he had like a deeply personal mic, a like crafted story joke and then a stupid one liner, and like in through a special he kept like going to each one, and I always like thought that was a really cool idea. And so I kind of want to do that with like videos where it's not just like talking head me speaking to a camera. I'll save that for the live streams for now. But instead something more like condensed and less rambly, because that'll force me to actually like put more structural effort into the video and more editing on there. But that's gonna be coming out probably my next video. It won't be complete because I'm not in my full spot to do it completely the way I want to, but it is coming up. And then with that, I'm probably gonna slow down on as many reviews to sketches and start focusing on doing more sketches, the live stream, and then making more produced like longer form content. So if you ever like mess around with like my popular videos, like it's like sketch, and then like somewhere at the bottom it's like a Malazan video that's like an hour long. Yeah, I had to learn how to be like really organized even with my Shamery, so that way it's like I knew exactly what needed to be done, even if I wasn't doing it exactly at the time. It just at least was like where there's at least a plan in place. So even though I'm still slacking off and being lazy, I have the perception of working very hard. But I worked in consulting for a while, and it's kind of like messed up, but I realized like with clients, and this applies to like managers, what you're actually doing doesn't really matter. Like obviously you have to deliver something that like works, but it's more like the perception of what you're doing actually matters. So it's like if everyone feels good about like what you're doing, then it's like success, even if you like turn in like a giant pile of spaghetti garbage code. Not always the case. Sometimes like you're working more tandem with people, but I did a lot of solo projects and it was just like, here's my spaghetti code. There you go. I definitely didn't code it last minute and it works. But I couldn't do that unless I like knew all of the individual pieces and everything. But that was just something I picked up from being super stressed and overworked when I like started out in consulting, because they give you like 15 projects and like unreasonable deadlines. So it's like you had to be very good at like organizing it and like presenting just like progress to everybody. It's kind of mixed. Um, I started out like kind of in like network, like a knock tech, and I just started automating all everything. And this was like a Windows environment, so I got like pretty good at like scripting, like PowerShell and stuff. And while I was doing that, I was like doing my CS degree at the same time. So it started out with like remote management tools and PowerShell scripts, and that turned into me kind of getting into like web dev of like PHP and just some like Node platforms. But we did some Azure DevOps stuff, but it wasn't like true DevOps because I wasn't using any like really CI tools. It was just me making like scripts that would like feed into like an existing system that wasn't like fully DevOps. But then I got into a weird position called an integration engineer, where I would just run around to like C suites and ask them like, or like look for ways to like automate their processes. And it wasn't until like my job after that, which was like as a DevOps like consultant, that I would just get thrown into random projects, and it was just whatever they wanted. Sometimes it was like GitLab, sometimes it was like Jenkins, or like everything's in like Azure or everything's in AWS. But I have gotten just good at Googling things. So I'm not like a specialist in anything except, I guess, talking to people. Okay, cool. Right now, most of the stuff I'm doing though is AWS, Jenkins, and there's a lot of bash scripting involved. But I do sometimes do like Python, .NET stuff, or like some like Maven runner projects and everything. But like I said, I'm not a specialist in really anything. I just like know a bit of like security, a lot of like infrastructure stuff, a lot of like Linux stuff, and just how to like spaghetti everything together in a way that works weirdly. Okay, cool. You haven't done bamboo. Jenkins was new to me up until when I started about a year ago. Now I say I'm like pretty comfortable in it. Most of the stuff I'd been doing was like Azure DevOps or like GitLab runners type of deal. But most of the time, I just use those as like kind of controllers, and then I'll just like do most of the heavy lifting in like Ansible or whatever PowerShell or like Linux environment they have. So I guess I'm good at scripting and just shoving it in whatever like platform offering they're doing. But I'm trying to focus more on AWS this year, so that's something I'm gonna try to like dive a bit more into. That's cool. I've heard about Bamboo. Do you like using it, or is it just kind of one of those like it's what's there? I did some stuff with Kubernetes too, but I hated it because I was managing the infrastructure on really bad equipment. So I need to get back into containers and like actually like get good at them. Most of the time it's like here's my Docker file. I hope this doesn't eat all the resources. But a lot of times those stuff's in place, so it's just tying everything together and then making it behave in a certain way. Yeah, I mean that's I think more what I'm focused on, but it's always like it's so broad. You're never gonna be able to like fully learn everything until it's time for you to like retire, and then like it's a completely new set of things to do too. So I think AWS and security is like my focus like right now. I want to get my CISP, but that's also like who has the time because I think I would need to study 4 hours a day for weekdays for about a month. I think was like the recommended study plan for me to like take that, but that's a lot of extra time that I don't want to give. And then I would have to have not enough stuff on my work plate for me to like feasibly do it because I'm not gonna do that in my free time. But CI/CD is nice. It's a lot easier to maintain, I think. So infrastructure when I was in it broke way more often. You got to deal with more upgrades and like being in charge of the CI/CD stuff is just like it. It's a lot nicer. I think I'm happy. I'm more on the CI/CD side than anything right now. Oh yeah, but back to the update stuff, and I just made like a small agenda for this just so I could like get through it and just like disseminate info. So I'm gonna just go back and forth. So feel free to like ask whatever questions or do what you want, Dimitri. I was just trying to get somewhat of a outline form to this. I named this one like Birdtalk number 0 just because it's kind of like a soft run of it, but we will see what's going to happen with that. I have the first official guest finally officially scheduled where we both agree and it's in the calendar for like next Sunday, and that's Christopher Navo, so I'm excited for that. So on my TBR right now, it's pretty loose. I'm going to finish up The Wandering End book 4. I'm almost done with Reaper's Gale. I don't think I'm going to jump into the next one just yet. Uh, but let's see. I think I'm going to jump back into the Cosmere coming up with. I haven't decided if I'm going to do like Mistborn first or like get into like publication order of the Cosmere, but one of my big goals for this year was to do the entire Cosmere. So it's going to be one of Sanderson's novels and then the King Killer Chronicles. But that's one I definitely am gonna wait to review until I actually have like my setup again, and then I'll probably throw in some more like lit RPG indie stuff into that mix. There was one I have it written down somewhere, but it was like a Cthulhian progression fantasy horror lit RPG. So that one sounded extremely interesting. So I think I'm gonna pick up that one next. If I'm not a fan of that, then it might be Mother of Learning. I read the first few books in the series and really enjoyed it, so I might just like reread that and do some videos on it. But I'll probably have like deep dive video book I want to read, fun indie fantasy that I'll make still make videos about, but kind of balance it out so I'm not just like big volume, big volume, big volume. But yeah, it'll be The Wandering in 4, something of Sanderson, either Mistborn or Elantris, or The Name of the Winds, and then some progression fantasy indie thing. But it's less. It's gonna be less like this is what I'm reading this month, and more just here's a queue of books. I'm gonna make. Maybe I'll make a website. I've been meaning to make a website for myself to like do this and like have all this up there, but it'll be less like here's the things of this month, but here's just like the giant like stack of books I'm getting through when I get through them. Something else I wanted to like refocus on was doing more sketches. So I think I'm gonna increase the frequency of that. I have like a giant list of sketch ideas I want to do that I've been like putting off and stuff, and especially with like getting back into the Cosmere and especially getting back into Patrick Rothfuss stuff, then I'll probably just have a lot of ideas for that type of stuff. I do have like 3 or 4 sketch ideas for the Wandering In and then just normal like book reader things. That's like, that's relatable and also absurd. So I do want to get back more into making that stuff because like you have like 5 minutes of film. It's way easier to edit. You can have a punchline, and honestly, I either like making really big, highly produced videos that's like me trying to condense all my thoughts into like one thing in an interesting way, or it's just like, haha, absurd humor, go brr. So I'm gonna start getting back into like sketches and kind of focusing on that. It's something I've done it a couple times, but not as like a professional, just as like trying to break into the industry. But I need to like I'll probably throw it into like AWS, but I'll have to figure out how much it will actually cost for me to have a website. Luckily, I have a small YouTube channel, so I don't think it's going to get a lot of traffic anyway. So I don't think I'll have to pay too much for like web hosting costs in the beginning. I guess if I need to pay more, that's a good thing, but I'd rather not have another subscription based bill if I can help it. But if nothing else, I think it'd just be good to have some sort of like tracker of what I'm actually reading and kind of the queue. Maybe it'll just be like a Google sheet until I can like transfer that into something. But I had this idea too that I wanted to do with, but Goodreads has a terrible API, but have a way for me to keep track of everything I'm reading, actually rate and review it, and have that like plug back into Goodreads. I haven't tried to do that in a while, but when that was like one of my projects I try to make was to like grab books by category, rank them by review, and then just like be able to give like a curated list or like get recommended a book within a genre. And that's when I realized Goodreads had a terrible API. So hopefully it's changed in the 3 4 years since I've done that. Oh, that'd be cool. There's two, especially because you're in like this field. If I can find the specific thing, I'll put it in the Discord. But it's like the cloud engineers resume, and it's kind of like a step by step thing of like basically having your resume be like hosted in S3 with like a bunch of DevOps automation behind it. So it's like one, they can see your resume, but then two, it's like you can talk about your resume as if it's like a CI/CD DevOps project that's been like automated, like it's like containerized, like hosted. I think they're deploying it with like Heroku or whatever, but it's kind of like here's me deploying my like resume as like I would an application. Like let's talk about it. But I think that's always like good to do, especially if you're trying to get more away from infrastructure into more like the dev side of things, because it's like you either do that or you get good at leak code, and I feel like building the website would be much more fun and less teeth pulling than like getting good at leak code. Mm-hmm. I guess the last two things I wanted to bring up were that I have a guest scheduled for next Sunday, but I definitely want to start having that be more of a regular occurrence. I want to have like this be more frequent in general, but I think Sundays would be probably the best time for me to just like have this be more podcast style, bring on other booktubers, authors, whatever, and just kind of like shoot the shit back and forth. Have chat actually be able to like interact with them as well, which would also make this much longer. I feel like I'm finally comfortable talking for like an hour or two, so make it longer. Why not? And then with this and some of the other things, I'm finally gonna give in to like getting back into YouTube Shorts and actually like clipping some of the things I do, because I'll like put in like 20 minutes of effort to make a ridiculous meme to not have everyone see it. So I was like, I could clip that ridiculous meme, put it in a short, and then link back to the video. And then like with these live shows too, I feel like it'd be good, especially if I start doing like 60-second reviews of things that I don't want to actually make a full video on. That just feels like easy ways to be like, clip, go. That's a video for the day. I mean, that's fair enough. I've done government work too. It's generally like pretty chill, and it's like stable work. Like in tech right now, it's been like super weird, just with the amount of like big companies deciding to like do mass layoffs, and then all the smaller companies kind of following suit, even though they're profitable. So it's not bad. I mean, if you're 2 years away too, that's like another income stream that if you're looking to do more traveling, is pretty nice. The problem with that stuff is just like, especially DevOps, is that you'll get paid so much more in the private sector, even though it's more unstable. So that's like always kind of the struggle. It's like chill stability or making ungodly amounts of money and having more time to do whatever you want because you make ungodly amounts of money. Yeah, I was in a consulting firm before, so I think it would have been fine because I did a lot of government contracts. But right now, I'm doing stuff for the government, and it's like no stress for everything. I was getting excited for the government shutdown because it was like you'll get back paid for everything, and I was like, that's like a month long vacation potentially. But it's like, oh, check the news every day and like don't like go out of country. It's like I can do that. I can go to a state park. Yeah, I have gone through all of my agenda items, so I can just go back and forth now. Yeah, no, government work is nice in that way. It's like stable, and I don't think I'd get a pension for my job now, but the amount of like free time I have is like absurd, and I kind of want to like, as a work role, finally get like rounded out with everything because I've never really used like Terraform or done like Kubernetes clusters and stuff. So whenever I look at like these super high paying jobs in my area, it's like I'm missing two or three major skills that they're asking for their absurd amounts of money. So I have like a good chance to like get work experience in one field, but then also like round out for the rest of it. So I kind of it's nice. So you have, depending on your field, just more free time to kind of do your thing. And at least for me, like the work life balance is like absurdly nice, which I really enjoy, especially with it being remote too. Just amount of freedom that you have too is just awesome. The a lot of places too, and friends I have, they've been all getting like that return to office mandates and everything, even after being remote for like years. And luckily, like I don't. There's like if you're a supervisor above a certain GS position, they're having them come into the office here and there, but not me. So I am more than happy with it. I mean, whatever works, right? I work that way too. It's just I know I'm a burster, so for me, I don't like stress out about it or feel bad. It's just I work best with like deadlines and like working in like a condensed time as like a sprint. So I just like factor that into whatever estimates I give people. So it's less like me worried about not doing the work and more just like a plan like I realize I can do this task in like this amount of time, and so it's just like I will do this task in this amount of time, like a couple days before the deadline. But that took me a while to figure out, and not just like completely mess up and be late on things or like not make deliverables. And I don't think I could have done that like in my early 20s. But yeah, if you feel bad about it too, it's like something like I like to journal a lot, and just kind of like focusing on things that like bring you like negative emotion or things. It's like if you realize that's like a source of it, I think just the act of like looking at it from that perspective or writing about it, and then kind of making your own like ways to deal with that, which whatever decision you make, I don't think it really matters, but as long as you make a decision about it, generally, or at least for me, that relieves like a lot of the stress of that. So if that's something you want to change or like not be stressed out about, that's not that you're asking for advice, but just sitting down and like writing to yourself as if you're asking yourself for advice about that seemed to be pretty effective in my case, and the people I've recommended to do this for that. But you know, it's same with like having a plan. Like if you want to like backpack and go travel and do things, and having an actual plan, like what do I want to do and what do I need to do it is always like helpful. I get super anxious about the unknown. So for me, it's like I'm a huge planner. So it's like if I think something's going to go wrong, I need like six contingency plans in the back of my head for me to relax enough to not worry about it. Because it's like, okay, whatever happens, I know I have like fully prepared for just like the complete worst of this. And it's no longer the unknown, but then just me waiting for like, A, B, C, D, or E. But that's also maybe a sign of neuroticism. I don't know. I'm pretty laid back in my like day to day life, but I think I'm laid back because I do stuff like that. It helps too, like working out, just blast some deadlifts. Or I love doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and that's something that like, especially if you never do it in like the first 6 months, you just like show up and have no idea like what's being done to you, and it's one of the few like martial arts that you can go 100% in, because like you can't really do that with like boxing or striking in general, which is what I grew up in. Because like if someone like full force tries to knock you out, they're gonna hurt you, and like then they feel bad and you feel bad because you're concussed. But like jujitsu, it's like you're grappling and wrestling, so it's like you can use 100% of your strength. So because of that, when you go in, you can go in with like all these like weird thoughts or stress like in your head, and then someone is trying to pretend murder you for like however long your practice is. In my case, like 2 hours. And while someone is like actively trying to strangle you or break your arm or tear your like meniscus, you just sort of have all of, like that weird stress and stuff just like vanish from your head. So you get like the endorphins, the physical release, but then also fighting off someone trying to murder you. And so that's like a great like stress management tool that I've known. A lot of like tech guys in jiu-jitsu too, which I always thought was funny. But like going there, playing pretend murder for 2 hours, coming back, it's like kind of lowers the volume and everything else. But I've been doing that for like 6 7 years too, so it's been something. Oh, that sucks, man. Yeah, injuries suck, especially like the hip injury. That's huge. I mean, the beginning we were there, but I know a few people in jiu-jitsu who had to get like hip reconstructions, and like I mean they're black belts, so it's like they're really good, but they managed to like bounce back from like total joint reconstruction like for that. But that's its own like super hard tough journey that would be like with your own injuries like kind of more difficult to navigate. Not impossible, but you know definitely like extra steps in the way of like trying to get that type of like mental relief from it. But I mean, I think a lot of times it's like the act of trying is like all you really need. It's like, even if you can't like perform, just getting out there and like actively doing stuff for taking control for me has been a big thing. It's like it may not be effective, but in the day it's like, oh yeah, no, I did it. I tried. I threw up 6 times, but at least I was out there. But this has turned into a weird philosophical talk. My dad has started getting into like making moonshine, which is an interesting retirement hobby. And he definitely gave me some before I went, so I think I'm just a little more philosophical than I would normally be in these. Yeah, I mean that's all he can do. But I think I'm going to. I started a bit late, but call it kind of the top of the hour. So I'm gonna be back next week with a guest that time. I'll probably start this at the same time and have him come on about like 30 minutes later. I'm gonna have to figure out the Streamlab thing and actually doing this all with the guest. But I'm going to have some video out in the in between. It might be a sketch, it might be the review I want to do for The Wandering Inn. But I have a green screen, so we're going to do something. But I'll see you later, Dimitri. Have fun at your parents' house. Have a good St. Patty's Day if you are stateside or in York. And I guess I'll be hopping off too, so take it easy.